Welcome back to Just Chattin', and this is the series of videos we do on Thursday and Sunday evenings just for our own entertainment. As you can see, Audie is with us. So, all you Audie fans, enjoy, because he has not been with us for a while. Is that right? Yeah. He's been boycotting the videos because he doesn't like the fact that we've had cold and snowy weather. It's winter, but he's a cat, so he doesn't have a calendar, and he doesn't understand these things. But usually when it gets like this, he is just looking for love in all the wrong places. Yeah, I know. Okay. Anyway, I'm glad you're getting a little bit of Audie time, because I know some of you are buying into his notion that this is actually his YouTube channel, and I'm just lucky to be here. So anyway, we are going to take a quick break for the intro, and we will get right down to business. So as those of you with sharp eyes will have noticed, I have changed clothing. I filmed that intro yesterday, but Audie was so determined to spend time in my lap that I simply couldn't finish it. So, it's the next day, we're starting again. I did leave that intro in because I know Audie has a lot of fans who haven't seen him in a while, and, you know, he thinks he's a superstar. I don't want his close-ups to end up on the cutting room floor. So, as we are speaking of superstars and cutting room floors, we are going to move into our first story about Nutmeg. And that is, Nutmeg showed up at the Sundance Film Festival last week. So, let me give you a little bit of background on this. Archewell, at least a year ago, maybe two, had invested in a project called Cookie Queens, and this was a documentary about the Girl Scouts of America, in particular focusing on the little girls selling Girl Scout cookies. So I'm assuming that's the information they put out to potential investors. Archewell threw some money their way and got designated as executive producer. By the way, they were one of about 24 funding sources for this little documentary, and by the time Archewell was involved in the project, the documentary was completed. It was, as they say in Hollywood, in the can. So, Nutmeg apparently never even saw it, and I infer that from the statements she made about the movie, which strongly suggests she had no idea what the focus of this movie was. So Nutmeg shows up at Sundance, and some of the publications, in fact, I've got one in the video notes that says, you know, Meghan and Harry show up and surprise visit at Sundance. It's like, for heaven's sake, it's Sundance, red carpet, cameras, Nutmeg. Where's the surprise in this? I wish they would stop labeling every appearance these two make as a surprise, because I can only assume that Nutmeg carefully coordinates her trips to the bathroom. I don't think this is anyone who does anything on the fly. I think everything is very carefully curated. And this whole surprise visit makes it seem like, oh, it was just spontaneous. No one knew she was going to be there. Yeah, sure. Well, I expect the people involved in the documentary were probably either not expecting her to be there, or certainly not expecting her to grab the mic and pull the spotlight onto herself. Although, if they had that idea in their heads, these people are truly living in a fantasy world, because I think at this point in time, everybody knows that if there is a microphone, Nutmeg is going to just gravitate toward it like it's a magnet drawing her in. So she does, in fact, do one of her standard mic grabs, takes all the spotlight to herself, talks about the movie, talks about how wonderful Girl Scouts is as an organization, and how she was a Girl Scout when she was a child. And, in fact, of course, she was a brownie. That's apparently all she can document. To be fair, brownies are part of Girl Scouts, but it is the junior group, the group for 7 to 9-year-olds. I know this. I was a brownie and a Girl Scout. It was more popular when I was a child. So the actual point of the movie is to examine the way in which these little girls are, in effect, exploited by the organization, Girl Scouts of America, to sell cookies. The largest part of Girl Scout funding comes from these cookie sales, and the film basically shows the levels of pressure on the girls to sell the cookies. Now, to be fair to Nutmeg, I have not watched this either. I have, however, read all of the available reviews, and yeah, this is basically what's going on in the documentary. And things have changed since I was a Girl Scout. Now, when I was a Girl Scout, I felt no sense of pressure to sell cookies except from my mother. My mother loved the cookie sale part. This woman threw herself into selling Girl Scout cookies like it was her full-time job. She had been born in the Depression. She grew up in the Second World War. She never had that experience. Girl Scouting was just not on the table for her, and for most of her generation. They had bigger fish to fry. So my mother, oh gosh, that woman could sell cookies. She'd sell them by the caseload. So obviously I never felt any pressure. I was the one who always came into my Girl Scout troop with those order forms completely filled out, begging for more, because my mother was in the background saying, "We need more cookie forms." Apparently now, the families of the Girl Scouts are required to buy the cookies in advance, which is not how it worked in my day. And you could end up getting stuck with a boatload of Girl Scout cookies if you buy them and then can't sell them. If this is Girl Scouts' current model, well, shame on you, Girl Scouts, because that is starting to sound like some of those bizarre practices from these multi-level marketing scams where, they want you to just buy, and yes, and eventually you'll win a prize or whatever. No, this is sleazy. It's sleazy when adults do it to adults, but when adults do it to children, it's beyond sleazy. Okay, enough about that. But Nutmeg is going on talking about how wonderful the Girl Scouts organization is. She stammered when they asked her what her favorite Girl Scout cookie was, and eventually defaulted to Thin Mints, which, by the way, is everybody's favorite. And when she was asked if she was going to enroll her own putative child in Girl Scouts, now mind you, the woman has just been singing the praises of Girl Scouts as an organization, she hedged. She never answered the question. They did not get a yes or no answer from her. She is being roasted far and wide for this. The only publications that are giving her any positive press for the Sundance appearance are her usual collection of puff PR piece outlets, People Magazine, Town and Country, etc. Everybody else is talking about what a disaster this was. Now, I believe Nutmeg showed up not to support Girl Scouts or the filmmakers, because again, I don't even think she watched the film. But I think Sundance, A-listers, and yes, there were A-listers, Channing Tatum, Jenna Ortega, Rob Lowe, one of the various Skarsgårds, Alexander, I think. I'll look it up. I think it was Alexander. There were people worth being photographed with at Sundance. And apparently Nutmeg was not able to slide in to anyone's photographs. How do we know this? Because she has not released any photographs from her Sundance appearance. And yes, I absolutely believe that was what it was all about for her. Throwing some money toward the film so that she could call herself an executive producer, first of all, which, by the way, in many cases is what they are openly saying is an honorary title. It's sort of the film credit you get if you've ponied up a little money to help the production along. And as I said, she was one of about 24 people who helped to finance this, one of 24 executive producers. But she was certainly carrying on in those interviews as if she was the star. So I believe that her main motivation was simply to have an opportunity to show up at Sundance. And that opportunity did not pan out for her. Meanwhile, the people who were actually involved in the making of this documentary have not really taken kindly to Nutmeg's involvement. They seem to be very upset. And of course, they should have been the ones being interviewed. They should have been the ones on the red carpet taking credit for their work. It's not likely that if they had it to do all over again, they would have taken whatever pittance Archewell gave them. And we know Archewell does not give serious money to anyone unless your father is in the White House. So, yeah, I would say this is an absolute fail. And in general, the media is calling it, they're calling it a disaster. They're calling it a fail. So, yeah, poor Nutmeg, she just can't catch a break, can she? So, the next story is, and this one is a juicy one. We are back to the Yacht Girl stories. Now, they have been around forever. I did a video on this, gosh, I think it must be 3 or 4 years ago now. I did a video about Nutmeg and these Yacht Girl rumors. And after I did my initial batch of research, I walked away saying I was largely convinced that those rumors were true. Subsequently, I have done more research, and I would say, boy, if I was largely convinced then, I am almost 100% convinced now. Well, apparently a video from Nutmeg's Yacht Girl eras has come out. I have not seen the video. It is described as Nutmeg dancing with an older gentleman in a very suggestive sort of way. Here's the thing. I am starting to wonder if this showed up all by itself, or if in the face of the rest of Nutmeg's disastrous 2025, this might not be something Nutmeg has thrown out herself. Now, bear with me on this. Kim Kardashian was basically nobody. She was the daughter of a celebrity attorney, and that was about it. Sex tape leaks. Suddenly, she is the queen of social media. And I think to this day, she is still the undisputed queen of social media. She was able to pilot that sex tape into a billion-dollar career, not just for herself, but for the rest of her little Kardashian clan. And I suspect Nutmeg is taking lessons from Kim now. I question the timing of this resurfaced video. It seems unusual to me that if anyone had a video like this, it would not have been released sooner, because Nutmeg's star is waning now. I think we can all see that. So what would be the point of releasing it now? The point of releasing it, if you had the video when you could sell it to the British tabloids, would have been 5 years ago, would have been 3 years ago even. But now, no, that seems a little off to me. Also, I have files and files of disturbing photographs of Nutmeg. Let me just put it that way. So when I look at her behavior and her willingness to throw her body out in front of the camera, in front of the public, to advance herself, of course, doesn't take much imagination. Let's face it, she married Trevor, a producer, when she wanted to kickstart her acting career. Didn't work out too well for her because apparently Trevor had the good sense to realize she was not star material. He gave her a little work, but not as much as she would have liked. Then, of course, when she got Suits, she dumps Trevor. And then when she wanted to establish herself in Toronto society, she hooks up with Corey Vitiello because he had a restaurant that was the hot night spot for the glitterati of Toronto. And then when she decided that fish pond was a little too small for her, she targets the sock puppet and then dumps Corey. This is how it works for her. But she has, everything she has to date has basically come from exploiting men around her, and largely from exploiting her body, her sexuality. Deal or No Deal was her major television credit prior to Suits. So, do I think she's capable of this? Abso-freaking-lutely. I have a series of photographs of Nutmeg, and these are Nutmeg topless, and they appear, emphasis on appear, to have been surreptitiously photographed as Nutmeg is turning to discover the camera and showing off her body in all of its glory. And what we have when we look at this, and by the way, I have tried to organize these photographs in what I believe are the chronological sequence in which they would have been taken from that camera. What we have is what purports to be Nutmeg topless, becoming aware of a camera nearby, going over to investigate, and at the end of this sequence of photographs, grabbing the camera. Meaning, let's face it, that if those photographs have been released into the public sphere, who was the last person who had their hands on them? Well, Nutmeg, obviously. Now, I do not believe she was surreptitiously photographed by anyone but herself. I believe that she staged this entire little film shoot. In fact, I believe that one of the photographs shows her adjusting the angle of the camera, but be that as it may, I think that what she was doing was throwing this out there so that she could get a bit of notoriety, something that might help her career in the way the sex tapes helped Kim Kardashian's career. And keep in mind, this would have been in the pre-sock puppet days. Nevertheless, post-Trevor. So Trevor, she had been married to Trevor at this point, possibly divorced from him. I don't know, because it's hard to date these photographs specifically, but it certainly would have been before the sock puppet, when her career was basically circling the drain, and she would have felt she needed a little bit of a jump start. I believe that's what we are seeing when we look at these photographs. Nutmeg's efforts to jumpstart her career in much the same way Kim Kardashian did hers with the sex tape. That is just my personal opinion. However, having that opinion, when I hear that a video from her Yacht Girl days has resurfaced while her career is circling the drain yet again, I gotta wonder who really is releasing this. Is this something that somebody sat on until now? The only person who would have benefited from sitting on a video like this until it was clear that her career was very much in the toilet is Nutmeg. Anyone else would have benefited from releasing the film when she was on a high. She's the only one who benefits from releasing a film when she is on the low end of the scale. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Of course, I do want you to have a chance to take a look at these images so that you can see what it is exactly I'm talking about. I think anybody looking at this set of photographs is going to come to the same conclusion. This is something Nutmeg arranged herself, trying to make it look like the paparazzi are photographing her without her knowledge. The truth is, no one's ever photographed that woman without her knowledge. She has a sixth sense about the camera. She was raised by an award-winning videographer. She knows cameras. And do I think there's any possibility that she was not a participant or minimally at least aware that these photographs were being taken? No. Obviously, she was. So, I just thought I would throw this out because remember, when that video breaks, and it is already circulating around there, I just haven't been able to get a copy of it yet, but when this video breaks, remember, it could very well be breaking from Nutmeg's own hands. Okay, that's what I have for you today. I thank you for being with us, first of all. I'm glad we had a little bit of Audie time. I hope to see you again next time. We're going to take a look at a slideshow on the way out. I am going to find something. Lady Louise. I think I'm going to show you a Lady Louise slideshow just because I want to get the awfulness of naked Nutmeg out of my mind. All right. So have a terrific day.